Video games have been getting dumber. Over the years they've been holding your hand, letting you butter mash your way through to the very end, and has made all of the supposed skill you have feel obsolete. But in 2025 a certain game went ahead and said no. We will not treat you like you are a Neanderthal. We will let you use your brain. And that game, ladies and gentlemen, is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. The gaming industry has increasingly leaned towards simplification and accessibility, aiming to capture a broader audience by reducing complexity. This can include a variety of things like a very linear storyline, one-dimensional characters, or just simply very plain and boring combat. You feel that every game you play these days by these big developers is just a copy and paste from the last. And that's where Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was such a breath of fresh air for so many of us RPG fans. And that's the topic of today's video, how Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 really broke the rules and actually did the opposite of what these big game studios think their fan bases actually want. Before we start, if you're a fan of gaming videos and gaming RPG videos in particular, please consider subscribing. I make weekly videos which I'm sure you will find enjoyable. But finally, let's get into why Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was such a breath of fresh air for us and how they really did break the rules. Streamlining in gaming. Basically when game developers make a game simpler or more straightforward to play, usually to appeal to a bigger audience or just make it generally easier to pick up and play. Think of it as like smoothing out the rough edges from their perspectives, cutting down on complicated mechanics, reducing the learning curve, or even automating some stuff so you don't have to mess with it. It really is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can make games way more accessible, especially for those casual players who don't really want to spend hours figuring out controls or stats. On another hand, however, some hardcore gamers absolutely hate it because it can truly strip away depth or that satisfying challenge that they crave. It's like the difference between a fancy coffee machine that does everything for you versus brewing it manually. Some people love the convenience, however, others just generally miss the craft. Looking back at it, I really could have thought of a better comparison to make. So what have been some of the instances where big game developers have went ahead and so-called streamlined their game? Well, look no further than our favourite people on this channel, Bethesda Game Studios. In Skyrim, combat moved away from the layered skill checks of Morrowind to a system where success largely depends on button timing and weapon attributes rather than character skill or player precision. The complexity of combat was significantly reduced to make it more approachable. Skyrim, however, isn't the only game that Bethesda tweaked to make it more accessible. Fallout 4 streamlined crafting with easy-to-use workbenches where players can quickly create or modify gear. This is a departure from the more intricate resource management in the earlier games where crafting could be a daunting task requiring specific components. However, for both of these games I've just mentioned, some particular topic that isn't picked up too much upon in my opinion is the whole lore. I really do think they've dumbed down the lore, especially in Skyrim, for what an amazing world the Elder Scrolls actually is. The lore wasn't really incorporated into the storytelling as much as I'd think it should have been. You always had to go out of your way, you always had to go searching for it. And that once again was a scheme to make the game more accessible and to make it less overwhelming for the casual player. However, Bethesda are not the only guilty studio of doing this. If you go over to our friends at Ubisoft, they have really butchered the Assassin's Creed series. Ubisoft introduced really bold markers and guides for objectives, combat, and exploration. The once intricate stealth and combat systems became more about following on-screen prompts, reducing the depth of player engagement with the game's mechanics. Their whole obsession with this open world that they think they can create better than any other studio really was their whole downfall. Because be honest, do the last 3 Assassin's Creed games feel like an Assassin's Creed game at all? Now, I can go on forever about how other game studios have done the exact same thing. EA, Activision, loads of other developers are doing this in gaming. This whole trend towards streamlining has really made games more approachable, yes, but it's also sparked debates about the loss of depth, challenge, and the unique identity of the games. It sets the stage really nicely for why Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's approach feels so fresh and commendable in an industry often moving in the opposite direction. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 boldly broke the rules by embracing a slow-paced gameplay model. It allowed players to take their time, immersing themselves in a richly detailed world that contrasts sharply with the trend of the fast-paced, streamlined RPGs that many companies have adopted. This approach defied the stigma that modern game design must cater to quick gratification, suggesting that the industry believed such detailed, slow games were no longer in demand. However, this couldn't be further from the truth. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's success story speaks volumes. It sold 2 million copies in just 2 weeks, showcasing a strong appetite for games that offer depth and patience in the gameplay. In contrast, EA's Dragon Age The Veilguard, which followed a more conventional path and was absolutely terrible, managed to only sell 1.5 million copies since its release. This comparison highlights the fact that there is indeed a significant market for games that take their time to unfold, challenging the assumptions held by some in the industry. But it's all well and good me telling you how well Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 does at fighting these stigmas, but let me tell you some specific examples of what they really do in their world that just adds that extra layer of depth. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 takes a bold stance against the prevalent trend of combat simplification in modern games, turning battles into an actual form of art rather than more of a test of reflexes or button mashing. Here's how it distinguishes itself. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's combat system is deeply rooted in the martial practices of the Middle Ages. It draws inspiration from the historical European martial arts, where combat is not just about strength but more about skill, timing and strategy. Players must master techniques like master strikes, which allow for disarming or counter-attacking opponents in a way that feels true to the period. Unlike games where weapons feel weightless, in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, each weapon has its own heft, affecting how quickly you can swing, block or parry. Stamina management becomes crucial as you can't spam attacks. Every action in combat requires consideration of your energy reserves, adding a layer of realism and even more strategy. I think what many players of this game really do appreciate is the complex engagement rather than the simplistic clashes you have in other games. Combat in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 requires players to pay attention to the opponent's movement. Parrying, blocking and striking are all bound by timing windows that mimic the rhythm of actual sword fighting. This turns each engagement into a chess match, where anticipating your enemy's next move is as important as your own actions. I think what else really adds a lot of depth and layers to the combat is the realistic consequences and the learning curve that comes with that. Players start off as novices in combat, mirroring Henry's own journey from a blacksmith's son to a warrior. The steep learning curve is intentional. It's designed to make players feel like every step of improvement in their combat skills is earned. This progression is a narrative-driven one, where mastering combat is part of the character's development, making each victory feel legitimately earned. No battle is an easy one, and this was reflected in the game's decision to not include an easy mode. This decision helped maintain the game's challenge as a part of the game's core identity. The decision reflects the harsh reality of medieval combat, where skill and strategy were paramount, and there were no shortcuts to victory. Instead of adjusting difficulty to the player, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 requires players to adapt to their strategies, learn from their mistakes and improve. This approach encourages a deeper engagement with the game's systems, fostering a sense of achievement that comes from overcoming an actual real challenge, not just button mashing your way through another boss. Another factor that should be mentioned is that combat isn't isolated to flat areas, but happens in the living world of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. The environment plays a role. Fighting uphill is a big challenge. Your sword could literally scrape against rocks if you're not positioned in the right place. This really pushes players to use the landscape to their advantage or as a tactical disadvantage. By focusing on these aspects, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 elevates combat from a simple mechanic to a complex, engaging and authentic experience that not only entertains us, but also educates players on the layers of medieval warfare. This approach stands out in contrast to the more automated combat systems prevailed in many modern RPGs, where combat often just feels like an afterthought rather than a central artistic element of the gameplay experience. But what is it about this game in particular that just separates itself from the rest? What gives you that immersive experience where your intelligence isn't questioned and your skills are actually being put to good use? This game really dives deep into the survival aspects of medieval life, making it a core mechanic that shapes how players interact with the game's world. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Eating isn't just about restoring health, it's about what you eat. Different foods have varied effects on Henry's health, stamina, and even morale. There is nothing worse than eating the wrong kind of food and then getting food poisoning, where you're going to be paying a hefty sum of money for some potions, which could have been simply avoided. Healing isn't immediate or guaranteed. Injuries are pretty specific as well, and treatment might require bandages, herbs, or just some rest. Now, you can only heal by two ways, by sleeping or by getting some potions. Potions are not a silver bullet. They might heal one aspect but ignore the others, maybe sometimes having side effects. Players must choose when to use them, understanding that over-reliance on potions could lead to dependency on them rather than learning the game's fighting mechanics to better themselves. The sleep feature is something I can really appreciate as well. It isn't just a button to press when low on health, it's a strategic decision really. Sleeping in unsafe places can lead to robbery or attack, while too much sleep can make you miss time-sensitive events. Sleep quality affects performance, from combat effectiveness to NPC interactions. It's always very funny when you sleep in a random person's house and then they demand compensation or worse. And then continuous activity without rest leads to fatigue, which impacts every aspect of gameplay from combat to dialogue choices, reflecting the real physical limitations of medieval life, or just life in general. No one likes to be fatigued. But then you also have a social status in this game. Your actions influence how NPCs perceive you, which can affect everything from getting discounts at shops to receiving help or hostility. Survival in this game isn't just about physical health, but also knowing how to socially interact with people. So it looks like there's no point you playing this game. Nah, that was a joke, that was a joke, that was a joke. If your social skills aren't too good, then at least you'll be able to apply your survival skills. Survival skills like hunting, herbalism, or blacksmithing can be developed, offering players ways to become more self-sufficient. These skills aren't just for convenience, but for surviving in this harsh world. Players might need to chop wood for fire, set traps for food, or manage their horse's health, or require understanding and interacting with the environment in a way that feels authentic to the period. By integrating all of these mentioned elements, this game transforms survival from a simple mechanic into a complex, immersive experience where every choice has a tangible impact on your journey through this medieval bohemia. This approach not only challenges players, but also educates them on the intricacies of life in the Middle Ages, making survival a central theme of the game rather than just an afterthought. But if you thought any of the previous mentioned was impressive, we're now going to move on to the best and final part of this video, that being the player freedom. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 champions player freedom, allowing for a personalised experience where choices you make shape not only just the narrative, but also the mechanics and interactions within the game. Let me tell you a little bit about it. This game offers you various ways to tackle quests. You might choose diplomacy over combat, stealth over confrontation, or even avoid quests altogether if you wish, impacting the story's outcome. This means that the game can be experienced in multiple ways, encouraging replayability for years to come. The decisions that you make during your game have lasting effects on the world, from the fate of characters to the actual political landscape. This isn't just about choosing sides in a conflict, but how your approach to situations can alter the course of different events, many times in unexpected ways. There's no clear-cut path of good or evil. Instead, you're faced with decisions where the morality is grey, reflecting the complexity of this medieval world. Your choices might be seen differently by different factions or NPCs, affecting your reputation and relationships. How NPCs do perceive you based on your actions can lead to different interactions with them, from respect and loyalty to suspicion and hostility. This system ensures that your moral choices are not just for the moment, but do have ongoing repercussions throughout the game experience. I know in so many other games, it's just a case of you can say anything to anyone and they'll probably forget about it next conversation you have. You can develop Henry in numerous ways as well, focusing on combat, stealth, diplomacy, or even scholarly pursuits like reading or alchemy. This allows for unique character builds that define how you navigate the game's challenges. Skills are improved through use, not just by spending points. This means that your playstyle directly influences how your character evolves, offering a true sense of actual growth based on your actions rather than a preset path. This game doesn't hold your hand. Without overly guiding markers, exploration is encouraged. Finding hidden spots, secret paths, or Easter eggs is a part of the adventure, making the world feel vast and alive. The world reacts to your presence. Events might unfold based on your actions or the current state of affairs in the game, offering spontaneous encounters that feel natural and responsive to the way you've played your journey. By emphasizing this player freedom, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 doesn't let you just play the game, it allows you to live within its world in a way that feels personal and impactful. This approach to the game design celebrates player creativity and autonomy, providing an experience where the player's choices, strategies, and moral compass define their journey throughout Bohemia. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 stands as a testament to Warhorse Studios' commitment to their vision, choosing authenticity and complexity over the simplification that has become prevalent in today's gaming industry. By refusing to compromise, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 not only defines its own niche, but also potentially influences the broader landscaping of game development. This is a huge reminder that in an industry often chasing the next big hit through simplification, that there's still value and demand for games that demand more from their players, offering in return an experience that's as rewarding as it is entertaining.